but I just don't think there's a way that they can win the championship at the current roster with the current roster they have. Alright everybody, welcome back to another episode of NBA Now. It's your boy Dom, and we're going to get right into things here today. So, today. First off, I want to start off by just saying, I know it's been a few days since I uploaded. Thank you everybody that's kept watching the channel and stuck with it. We're back. Hopefully we should be on the grind again, and we're going to get right into things. So, today we're talking about the Lakers. The Los Angeles Lakers. Very polarizing topic for this upcoming season. Obviously a team that is surrounded by, well, what they're calling it now, the Lakers 360, right? Anthony Davis, LeBron, and Russell Westbrook all wearing those numbers individually. They came up with that name, but that's really what the basis of this team is. Now, this team isn't just made up of those three players. You also have guys like Taylor Horton Tucker, Kendrick Nunn, Carmelo Anthony, Trevor Ariza, Malik Monk, Kent Bazemore, DeAndre Jordan, Wayne Ellington, Dwight Howard, and Rajon Rondo all on the team as well. And obviously they're paying Luol Deng as well. A solid $5 million. So shout out to Luol Deng for making that money. But this is definitely a polarizing team, and I don't think that they're gonna win a championship. I'm gonna say it right now. I don't think the Lakers will win the championship this year, just because although they have the talent, they don't have the fit. I think that's something. This Lakers team reminds me of the first year LeBron was in LA, right? They're not quite to that extent where, they don't have like a Michael Beasley and like a Lance Stevenson. That was almost like a LeBron meme team, to be honest, when you look back at it. But no, I think this will be a playoff team. This could potentially be a deep playoff team, but I just don't think there's a way that they can win the championship at the current roster with the current roster they have. Because for Russell Westbrook, and I mean anybody talking about the Lakers has talked about this, but for Russell Westbrook to thrive, he needs the ball in his hands. LeBron is better with the ball in his hands than Russell Westbrook is, and Anthony Davis is not the shooter that we all thought he was, right? Obviously, when you look at a guy like Anthony Davis, for his career, he's averaging about 24, 10, and 2. Last season, he averaged about 22, 8, and 3, right? But when you look at his percentages, from 3, he's never shot more than 34% from 3, and that was in 2017, 2018. This last season, he shot 26%, and he plays the power forward position, right? He refuses to play the center, which he would be a good floor spacer at the center position, or at least a solid one. But he refuses to play it, and because he's injured so much, that even makes it less likely for him to ever play it, right? And so I think in order for this team to succeed, he'll need to play the center the majority of the time that he's on the court, including starting at center, and I don't see that happening. So that's one guy that can't really shoot. LeBron, obviously we know he's gotten better as a shooter throughout his career. A streaky shooter at that, but he's gotten better throughout his career. When you look at his career three-point percentage, it's about 34%, 34.5%, so higher than 80's ever shot. And then last season, he shot about 36% from 3, with his best season being 2012, 2013, where he shot just over 40% from 3. Bet y'all didn't know that LeBron had a 40% from 3 season. But yeah, LeBron's gotten better at shooting threes throughout his career. I think we all universally acknowledge that. A streaky shooter at that, though, so not somebody that you super want to rely on to be shooting the threes. And then Russell Westbrook, for his career, he averages 30% from 3. His highest is 34.3% from 3, and last season he shot about 31% from 3. So on the high end of his career last year, and still not good. Look, it's no shot at any of these players. I think all these players are all-time talents. When you look at Anthony Davis, there's no reason that if he was more aggressive, he couldn't be on the level of what Giannis is right now. I think Anthony Davis is more talented, and obviously he grew up playing the guard, so he should be able to have the handle and the driving ability that Giannis has, but he doesn't tap into that. He's, to be honest, plays soft for his size. And yet he's still, an arguable top 10 player in the NBA. Some people would probably say he's even top 5. And he's probably the worst of, I don't know. Westbrook's probably the worst of the 3 at this point, but Westbrook does have an MVP. So, and I mean, even Russell Westbrook, right? He's won an MVP. He's been to the finals before. Obviously, a while ago, but as a number 2, he's been to the finals before. And LeBron James is arguably the best player to ever touch a basketball, right? So these are very good players. And I don't think their fit is the best, but I think it's workable with the right roster. Now, with what was available in free agency, I think the Lakers did a good job surrounding them. My biggest issue is the signing of Dwight Howard and DeAndre Jordan. Now, if you're only playing one of them in the rotation and the other is for like injury or rest games or whatever, then I'm okay with that. But I would want to be, like I said, I think Anthony Davis needs to start at center for this team to be successful. Now, when you look across the roster, again, I think Rondo, we know what Rondo brings, although I still just don't like the fit. I think you probably could have found a way to fill that out better than bringing in a Rondo. Wayne Ellington has no defensive ability. Kent Bazemore is just a streaky guy on offense. And then a guy who I think is going to start that just isn't getting a lot of buzz to start, because, I mean, you're looking at the shooting guard position, either Taylor Horton-Tucker, Malik Monk, Kent Bazemore, Kendrick Nunn, or Wayne Ellington, I think, as your shooting guard. And I think Malik Monk will start. And, I mean, Malik Monk had, I want to say he shot about 40% from 3 this last season, but that's still, like, when you look at, just, when you, sorry, let's see, what did he shoot from 3? So his career average is 31%, and then this last season I thought he shot better than that. He shot 28%, apparently, according to Fanspo. The other ones were according to Basketball Reference. But according to Fanspo, he shot 28%. I feel like he shot better than that. Either way, he can be a good shooter, but he's probably the streakiest shooter on this entire roster. So I think he'll play because he's young and he can kind of handle the minutes, whereas plus, he's not going to be quite as much of a defensive liability as Wayne Ellington. So I think that he'll start. And then I would expect, because I assume AD will play the 4, I would expect the other starter to be Dwight Howard, with DeAndre Jordan as your bench 5. Again, I don't think that works as a successful formula, but I think that's what they go with. Now, a big thing I have with this Lakers, I think Kendrick Nunn and Malik Monk are the most underrated players on this because they're young, they're going to be able to play a lot during the regular season, they're bucket getters, and they can both shoot relatively decently. I'd rather Nunn be as a shooter, but he's a little bit smaller, so I would not start him next to Westbrook, even though Westbrook can be a good defender when he's engaged. And he's always engaged, but sometimes he's not a good defender, sometimes he just isn't. So, but my issue with this team is Taylor Horton-Tucker. Now, Lakers fans love Taylor Horton-Tucker. I mean, if you had to pick a guy in this roster that Lakers fans love the most, it's Taylor Horton-Tucker, and it's not even close. And, I mean, this is a roster with LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook. But for some reason, and I'm not saying Taylor Horton-Tucker is a bad player, he's a serviceable NBA player. I think on any team, he's at best a backup shooting guard, right? He's a little bit small to play the 3, although he'll probably play a little bit at the 3. He's got the body mass to play it, kind of like a Bruce Brown, where they're a little bit smaller, but they can play it. Not a terrible defender, but I wouldn't call him elite by any means. I wouldn't call him a Lou Dort. I wouldn't call him a Bruce Brown or anything like that. But this guy is making almost $10 million a year this first season on a 3-year long contract, because if he doesn't pick up $11 million, his agent needs to be fired. And although I think it's really good idea to be able to trade him, you don't really have much to trade him with. You know what I mean? Their pick situation isn't great because you traded the majority of your picks for Anthony Davis. So, and I mean, you don't have young players in the roster. I mean, Malik Monk and Kendrick Nunn are technically young, but they're also on, 1-year deals. I mean, Kendrick Nunn's on a 2-year deal, but just not something a team is going to be like, oh, yes, let me go get them. Plus, those are kind of bigger parts of your roster as the fact that they're not over 35 years old, so they can play the entire regular season. Whereas a guy like Trevor Ariza is a very situational guy where you want to throw him in for some defense. And I just think Taylor Horton-Tucker, being arguably a worse shooter than Russell Westbrook, being, only like 6'4", 6'5", just isn't a guy that you want to be as your 4th highest paid player on a team that wants to go win a championship. And he is. And I think that this is where some of the problems start to lie, right? Obviously, you see the not great fit with the starters. Then you kind of see the spottiness and age of the roster, which I think is a little bit overblown, but is definitely true. And then you see Taylor Horton-Tucker, who for his career shoots 30% from 3, and that's a bit of an over-exaggeration, in my opinion. Again, according to Fanspo, I didn't look him up on Basketball Reference. But, seems a little high. Yeah, just, he's a guy, he can take it to the basket well, and all that. He averaged 9 points per game in 2019-2020 season. Apparently it doesn't want to tell me what he did in the 2021 to 2020, or 2020 and 2021 season. But just, I don't think a guy that can be a pivotal piece of your franchise, right? So, sorry, for his career, he averaged 28% from 3. He shot 28.2% this last season on 2 attempts per game. So he doesn't attempt them, and he doesn't make them when he attempts them. And so he's young, he can develop and all that. Again, a serviceable NBA player. No hate to the guy. But for him to, be kind of a cornerstone piece of a championship team, not a cornerstone, but a primary role player for an NBA team isn't good. Swap him for a PJ Tucker, and although PJ Tucker would be, another older guy on this team, I'm sure there's a better example that you could find. But swap him for somebody like that is a really good defender, that's a better defender, and can just shoot, is much better fit on this team. Because Taylor Horton-Tucker really just needs the ball in his hand to go score, and he's not the craziest bucket getter, especially not on this team, right? There's a list of guys that I would rather have taking a shot, putting the ball in their hand and just letting them isolate for a possession. I'd rather Russell Westbrook do that. I'd rather LeBron James do that. I'd rather Anthony Davis do that. I'd rather Kendrick Nunn do that. I'd rather Carmelo Anthony do that. And I'd rather Malik Monk do that because he can shoot the 3-pointer, right? Even a Rajon Rondo, I'd rather him isolation because either he's going to potentially get a layup or pass it. Whereas Taylor Horton-Tucker, again, he's going to be taking this mid-range, which isn't it's technically by analytics, it's the worst shot that you could shoot, but it's not the worst shot you can shoot. I think we all know a contested shot, a contested 3 or something like that is much worse, but especially from not a great shooter. But he's not going to be getting you the most efficient baskets. He's just a very strange fit on this team. And so if you're starting him and Anthony Davis, you're walking out with 0 shooters, because I'm not counting LeBron as a shooter. If I look at this team, I'd count Wayne Ellington as a shooter. I would probably count Kent Bazemore as, again, a streaky guy, but a shooter. I'd probably count Malik Monk, and then that's really it. I don't know if I'd count Kendrick Nunn as a shooter. Maybe Carmelo. He's definitely improved his 3-point ability, and especially catch and shoot as he's gotten older and with the Trailblazers and stuff like that. But just a team that is just strangely constructed to me, and I just don't see. If you look at them versus the Nets are going to space you out. They're going to have the defenders to, do stuff to you like a Nicholas Claxton, like a Bruce Brown. Even against the Warriors, like, you don't have a lockdown guy to stop, like a Steph Curry, or try and take him out of the game. So if you tried to single out their star, it's not going to work. And even then, like, you have older players, so that's typically going to mean shorter stints of time on the court, right? Not like, oh, they're 55 years old and they're going to run out of breath in 2 seconds, but instead of, oh, you need to lock down for the fourth quarter of this playoff game, let's leave Trevor Ariza in the whole time. Trevor Ariza is not staying in for the whole fourth quarter. It's just not happening, right? So it's just a very strange roster construction. And I think there's just a lot of teams that can take advantage of what the Lakers are going to try and do. I mean, even in this gameplay that I played, right? I was playing the Nets, and I was trying to drive because I didn't really trust any of my shooters, especially, in a contested shooting situation where he had the defenders playing on them. So it was a lot of me get to the basket, dump it to Anthony Davis, and where, luckily I was running Anthony Davis at center and just kind of let him go to work, was the majority of my offense for this entire thing. And that's, obviously this is 2K versus real life, but are the Lakers really going to be trusting, like, if you're doing off-ball screens and trying to get a lot of movement to try and open up shots where you're having LeBron drive and then you get a Talen Horton-Tucker off of a screen, or you get a Trevor Ariza open off of a screen, they're not hitting all those shots. They're going to miss a lot of those shots, and that's demoralizing when you see a good because they're going to be able to run the plays. They're all veteran players. They've been in the league for a while. They know how to play the game, obviously, but it'll be slightly demoralizing for the team when you run this great play, you get an open shot, and clink, right off the side of the rim or right off the backboard it goes. You know what I mean? You see that happen, say, 3 times in a row. Yes, you've got two of the probably best teammates in the NBA in LeBron and Russell Westbrook. We know LeBron as more of the leader, team builder aspect of it, and Russell Westbrook is, you hear players talk around the league talk about him like he's their best friend, right? You saw how heartbroken the guy was when KD left, right? And even other players that he's played with all throughout his career have loved playing with him. Although it hasn't led to a championship, they've loved playing with him. So 2 of the best teammates in the NBA is going to help with your, and the veteran presence of it all will help with your, fight in the game, obviously. But it'll be slightly demoralizing when you're missing wide open 3-pointer shots or being forced into contested 3-pointers. And, as LeBron gets older, an injury-riddled Anthony Davis, as LeBron gets older and an injury-riddled Anthony Davis, how much do you really want to trust them to be going at it every single game throughout the regular season? You want to be able to coast games, which Russell Westbrook allows you to do to a certain extent. He's a floor raiser. He'll bring the floor up. He guarantees you pretty much a playoff spot alongside LeBron and AD. And if not, he guarantees you home court advantage in the playoffs too. Just because their talent will carry them to that. As long as there's no major injuries, obviously, knock on wood, we don't want that to happen. But for the most part, their talent will carry them far. But I think that's as far as you get. Just because you don't have a cohesive team. Even if the team comes together mindset-wise and everything. For 2021 and 2022, for the game of basketball that's played today, you do not have a cohesive roster and a correctly constructed roster to win an NBA championship. So I would take if they make it to the finals, I'd take who they play over them. I would take the field in the East over the Lakers. Although I think that's more than likely going to be the Nets or the Bucks. I would take the field in the East over the Lakers winning the championship because, especially in the East, you have a lot of defensive schemes that you can run to pretty much lock this down. I think even in a series versus Utah, you would see a lot of struggle for the Lakers. If the Lakers matched up with the Utah Jazz in the first or second round, it would more than undoubtedly be a 6+ game series. simply because of Rudy Gobert. And I feel like I am pretty critical of Rudy Gobert. Now, I don't know if I've quite shown that on this channel, but I feel like I'm pretty critical of Rudy Gobert. And I think even his presence alone would force this team to play 6 games or 7 games, because even if you're playing Anthony Davis at center, Gobert can sag a little bit, and Anthony Davis, I mean, unless he has a hot night, he's not going to make all those threes, and you're still going to have to deal with Gobert in the paint, along with a improved forward perimeter defensive roster for the Utah Jazz, who, even if you went small and took your bigs off the court and went with some sort of small ball lineup where you didn't even have necessarily a big like an Anthony Davis, Dwight Howard, or DeAndre Jordan on the court, they've improved their roster, bringing in guys like Rudy Gay, to the point where, what the Clippers did to him last year isn't quite as possible anymore, because I think Quinn Snyder and the GM saw that, and they, went out and addressed it. So I genuinely, in a series, would take the Utah Jazz over the Los Angeles Lakers this next season. Obviously, I know that this comment section is going to be filled with happy Lakers fans towards my channel. So if you guys did watch to this point, I would appreciate a like, because I do expect this video to absolutely do terrible. But it was a video that needed to be made. It's a video that other people have made as well, but it's just something that the Lakers need to be aware of, and if they don't come to play 115% every night like Russell Westbrook, then they're going to struggle, and they're going to struggle mightily. So, yeah, appreciate everybody's support. Again, hopefully we're back on the grind now. Sorry about the little bit of delay between the videos, but yeah, it's going to be it for your boy Dom. This has been NBA Now. I'll catch y'all next time. Peace out.